everybody? Welcome back to Treasures Galore. My name is Michael Elder, and in this video, I am going to go over Jon Collins Black's book, Unbreakable Thread. In this video, I'm not going to go through There's Treasure Inside, where he goes over hiding 5 different treasures, but I am going to go over his children's book. Now, if you're asking why on earth would I do that, in There's Treasure Inside, he tells us that just because of the timing of this children's book, because he owns Marble Press, this children's book came out the same year as his treasure hunting book, There's Treasure Inside. And due to the timing, he decided to leave, and I quote, an extra clue or 2 inside this book. So I am not going to go over page by page and show pictures of everything, obviously for copyright reasons and whatnot. And, I just want to go over some things that I saw that I thought were interesting. Some things have been talked about. Some things, some other things have not. So want to go over it. But I want to ask a question to you guys. Now, if you do order this book, I think a really important question to ask is, how would JCB be able to hide clues in this book? How would he be able to do that? And also, just being outside of his treasure hunting book, would they be clues for like coordinates? Would he give exact coordinates to the treasure chest? Or would he, possibly give a state that the treasure is located in? What information would he give in this book just because he said it was out of fun, and, just due to the timing, he decided to leave an extra clue or 2. So, how big are these clues going to be, and how would he possibly hide clues inside this book? Now, I did order the book and I do have it, and going over through, the text in the book, I really do not think that there are clues or hints in the text. I believe they have to be in the pictures. And so, just thinking about how he could possibly hide clues in this book, the popular opinion is that he gave a clue to the state that the treasure is in by the images or the negative images, the shadows or the negative outlines of the bookshelf. It gives the state which the treasure is in. Then, let's go over some different ways that he could hide hints or clues, or let's go over background details, small objects, numbers, or symbols. So that is huge within this book. There are so many different numbers, letters that are scattered throughout the pictures that, there may be something in that. Now, I'm not smart enough to be able to look at these random numbers and letters and be able to decipher some sort of hidden message or something along those lines. But maybe you are. There are a lot of them. Now, just opening up the book, on the very first inside the book, there is a picture frame. There's a whole bunch of picture frames on it, and just on the picture frame, there's the numbers. It looks like 7, 9, possibly a 3. So, there's so many different things that are in here that you could possibly come up with a message. I know there's a YouTuber named Matt. He thought he got coordinates out of some of these things, and, possibly, to me, just being an extra thing out of fun, I don't think he would give coordinates. I believe it'd be something, maybe a picture of one of the clues or one of the places you would see going to it, something along those lines, out of fun. I feel like there would be major problems if someone figured out the lion's share box by buying his children's book. something that he says that you don't necessarily need. But out of fun, he just placed a few clues. So, something huge, don't think it's in there just for that reason. Okay, so what else could be in here, right? Patterns of words or colors, a recurring color scheme or object. And I'm sorry if I'm stumbling over my words. I am super tired. It's 10:30 at night, and this is the first time in literally a month that I've had time to do a video. So I apologize. All right, continuing on. So how would he hide clues in this book? So maybe wordplay. The first letter of each page or chapter could spell out a location or a hint. Maybe you fold the pages in a certain way, and it reveals certain words, or maybe words align. Maybe from the illustrations, the places that you see in the backgrounds are maybe places you would see as you travel down the clues, and there's treasure inside. He says that think of these pages as a map. There's a starting point, directions to follow, and then obviously the ending destination. So maybe he shows you maybe some of the illustrations are what you would see as you're traveling to find the lion's share box. That's just a certain few things. Maybe there's Morse code or, some sort of braille, I don't know, tiny dots or dashes that could translate to messages maybe. There's a whole bunch of different ways, but if you do order this book, that's something really to think about is how would you hide clues in this? And to me, the obvious thing is through the pictures, right? So I decided to reach out to the illustrator, and her name is Nicole. Not going to pronounce her last name. So anyways, I wrote her a few questions that I had, and I will just read you her response. I'm not going to read you my question, but I'll read you hers. So, actually, let's start on the first one. So she says, "Hi there, thanks for reaching out. Apologizes for the delay. She had the flu, yada, yada, yada." So she says, "I'm so glad you enjoyed the illustrations. To be honest, this is my first time I'm hearing about Jon's treasure hunt project. In terms of your questions, I unfortunately didn't work with Jon on the book project. I worked with the art director and editor of the publishing company Marble Press. There was some back and forth about the illustrations with the art director and editor, but not from a treasure hunting perspective. It's possible that Jon was getting to see the artwork via the editor and art director, but I was not aware of this going on. The process of illustrating a book is different than most people think. An editor usually gets a manuscript, and the editor and art director discuss possible illustrators for the book. The illustrator commits to the project and then works primarily with the art director on concept images and ideas for the interior of the book. The manuscript is often paginated, so we know what text will go in which spread. Children's books usually have 16 spreads. Once the art director and editor approve the sketches, the illustrator moves on to color and complete the images. In my experience, the author and illustrator do not have direct contact with each other, and any notes the author has for the artwork is included in the manuscript. I'm sorry I can't be of much or more help. Thanks, Nicole." Okay, so I asked her if she's heard from any other treasure hunters and a couple more questions, and this is what she says. So she says, "Hi there. I've gotten just a few so far, but I imagine more are coming. You're free to use my response. One thing I will add is that any clues in the art are more personal to me than to the treasure hunt. For example, there is a red car/teddy bear plush that appears throughout the book that is actually a childhood toy of my husband's. And the cat on the mug in the college spread is a homage to my cat. Several pictures on the end pages are based off my own family photos, and the street where the boy rides his bike is actually the street I currently live on. Thanks, Nicole. And that was the last that I wrote her. So, I thought it was interesting. I really wanted to reach out to the art director and, the people that would have direct contact with JCB, but, since they are employed by Jon himself, I figured that I probably wouldn't get much information from them. So, didn't even reach out to them. But I thought it was interesting that, kind of the process on how it works, because I was completely ignorant of the whole process. So I'm glad she explained that, and I guess we can stop emailing her or asking her questions because she didn't have any contact with JCB himself. So dead end on that side. So yeah, just thought it was interesting. I thought it was pretty cool that she did actually take her time to write me back. So that was cool. All right, so let's get into what I have seen in our Unbreakable Thread. But before I want to do that, I want to bring up this real quick. So I found this out when I was Googling the book. There was a Reddit post that brought this up as well. And it's a book called The Unbreakable Thread, which I thought was interesting. JCB's book is Our Unbreakable Thread, and this book is The Unbreakable Thread. So, very interesting. On the Reddit post, it actually talks about how very, very similar the books are. Like, almost if, JCB took a lot of things from this book and added to his. I don't know how copyright stuff goes, especially with a children's book. I mean, the Unbreakable Thread is, very common. Wouldn't say book, but, it's a common theme, I guess, especially with children, right? The Unbreakable Thread. But on that Reddit post, I did read that the author, Emily, was looking into possible copyright infringement or something like that. Again, you can't read everything you can't believe everything you read on the internet, right? And I believe George Washington said that. So, just thought that was interesting, guys. Two books, very, very similar. Interesting. All right, so let's get into what treasures galore found in the book. So, if this book is not a money grab, he puts it in his treasure hunting book that you have to pay, what, $40, $50 for, right? And then he says, oh, I left a few clues in my children's book. You should go and buy that, right? If you want to find the biggest treasure, you could also get a few more clues if you pay more money for my children's book. So, just hearing JCB doesn't sound like he's that sort of guy, especially with the money he made from, Bitcoin and stuff like that. Doesn't sound like that would be something that he would do. So one of my thoughts was, what if he did put a few hints in here, but the pages that have the hints or clues are on his website for everyone to see? It would make sense to me. So maybe the hints and clues are actually on the website and you can look at them for free. Just a thought. Just hearing JCB talk and, the type of man he is, it would make sense to me if he did that. So, all right. Again, like I said, I'm not going to go through all the different numbers and letters that I have seen. So, I'm just going to go through some quick little points, and then we'll get on our way. So, right when you open up Our Unbreakable Thread, there is a picture of a kid and a dad fishing on a bridge. So, in my mind, anyone that was in the Forrest Fenn hunt, to me, it would stick out. The fishing bridge in Yellowstone was a big topic that Forrest Fenn talked about. Now, I know that he said he put clues to the lion's share box in here, but who's to say he didn't put little nuggets in for the other part 2 boxes? Who knows, right? So when I read this book, I'm looking for, landmarks or, something outdoors that might give a clue. And so, that one stuck out to me. The kid and the dad. There's also another gentleman. Looks like there might be a dam behind them. And then, looks like there's a little umbrella with like a little building on top of a green little hill or something like that with stairs leading up. So, thought that was interesting. Maybe a Forrest Fenn clue or hint. And then there is also a kid and a dad and a mom, I presume, on a beach. And the dad has a shovel, little tiny toy shovel, but he's digging in the sand, which I thought was interesting. The little kid also has a frog on his shirt. Made me think of the Pokemon chapter with the frog with ruby red eyes. Alright, so talking to the illustrator too, she did say some of these pictures some of them are from her family, so which ones are those? I did not ask her. Alright, continuing on. There are no page numbers, so I can't really give you page numbers, but on the page where the mom and dad are standing there and they're holding their little son up on the bookshelf, a lot of people have talked about the negative image between the bookshelf and the books. It looks like a outline of a state. I can't remember what state exactly. I kind of looked into it and possibly, I don't know, I didn't really get it. So, moving on. So if you go to the next page, whatever page number that is, the kid's learning how to walk. And so if you look on the right-handed page, there's a picture frame, and it looks like there's trees, and then it looks like the outline of some sort of rock formation, which stuck out in my mind that could possibly be a rock formation that is near the lion's share box. Or maybe a part 2 box, who knows? But if we're going off JCB's word, we should probably just be looking for the lion's share clues. Okay, so you go on, and it's the first day of kindergarten. I don't know if you can zoom in here. Can you zoom in? Oh, a little bit. So you zoom in, and these kids, these kids have little bracelets. So I'm guessing this kid is this kid, but it looks like they have matching bracelets on. Maybe they're matching bracelet friends, but looking at the colors, it kind of reminded me of the Art Smith chapter. The weird, possibly AI generated photo of the dancers, and they have like different colored bracelets on. If you look at the color of the bracelets and compare it to those, they're very similar. I believe the only color that's missing is blue, but something that stuck out in my mind. But no, it wouldn't be the same kid because they have different colored pants on. Maybe? I don't know. Same shoes. Might be the same kid. I don't know. But anyways, they have matching bracelets on. Okay, so let's go. Next is... Okay, it's a big one, which is not on here, I believe. Let's check it out. Nope. You can also find different pictures of this book online, I believe. Okay, alright, so let's get to a big one. So, on the page where the kids are on the roof and they're looking through a telescope with a tripod, that brought me to Chapter 19, Moon Rocks and Meteors. Because JCB talks about taking his little telescope and he climbs on top of his parents' minivan, sets up the tripod, and peers at the planets and stars. and he always wanted to reach up and touch the moon, and he finally got a chance to do that by buying the moon rock, right? But this chapter directly corresponds because there's other, well, I guess the Forrest Fenn chapter 2, he talks about telescope, right? And his dream. But just the telescope on the roof and then also talking about it in his book, climbing up to the top of his parents' minivan, and then now they have climbed up to the top of the roof with a telescope on a tripod looking at the stars. So maybe this is trying to direct you to chapter 19, that chapter could have a very big clue in it, maybe. Or maybe there's some tie into maybe the stars or constellations or something along those lines. Okay, next page is another big one that I liked. People have brought up the green hat, possibly with like a lightning strike on it, or, it's kind of weird, but it could possibly be the outline of California. Maybe. I don't know if you get creative or not. But that has been brought up multiple times. But what I'm really interested in is this kid's laying down, talking on the phone to his dad, the Unbreakable Thread, right? But on his wall, there is a poster of a black basketball player, and he's going up to slam dunk the basket. To me, that brings me right back to There's Treasure Inside, right? The chapter with Michael Jordan. Obviously, famous poster of Michael Jordan with his tongue out, jumping from the free throw line and slam dunking the ball. So, back to back, really big, I think. I think these are really big. I think these are going to be important. So, chapter 19 and then the Michael Jordan chapter as well. So, as far as getting hints or clues out of this just from this book, I have no idea. But two tie-ins that I thought were really, really interesting. All right, so then in the next page, it has the father and son. The son's grown up, right? But he's sitting on a little dock, and they're both fishing again. Another lake with trees right there. So that's two instances already of water, fishing poles, and trees. And then it looks like there's probably a tackle box, but maybe a lunch box of some sort, and then probably a couple coffees, it looks like, maybe. So, two things of fishing, which I thought were interesting. So then, here we go. Here's the next page right here. You have two people falling in love, and then he gets his heart broken. But what I notice is another spot where there's grass and there's benches, but two people are walking dogs, and then you have obviously some sort of body of water in the back. Looks like possibly a lake once again. So you got a lake and trees. And then the dogs brought up a few things in my mind. Like on page 47 when he talks about, so he gives very specific directions, which I think is very interesting. Possibly could be a clue, but on page 47, he says he took a sharp left, crossed a gravelly pavement onto a barely worn path, mostly used by dogs that barked around his neighborhood. Very weird statement, very specific, taking a sharp left, crossing a gravelly road into a barely worn path. Now, could that be specific directions on what you need to do to find the box? Possibly. Or possibly he's just recounting, his childhood. Who knows? Very specific, though. Also mentions dogs. So, popped up in my mind. And, JCB brings up in his book that, especially in part 2, he says, there's different sorts of, puzzles and stuff for people, with different minds. It's their, brand of tea, as he calls it. My brand of tea is I'm a reader. I'm not even lying. I've probably read There's Treasure Inside over 25 times. I'm not even kidding. That's probably a generous estimate. So every night I probably read. So what I do every night is I read 2 chapters in part 2. So half of part 2 of the part 2 boxes, and then I read 4 to 5 chapters in part 1 every night, and I've done that since pretty much the book came out. So whatever that math adds up to. But what happens in my mind is I read something, and then once I read it again, I'm like, oh, this thing reminds me of this, and then I go back and look at it and whatnot. So I don't know if that's good or bad, because my mind works like that, and then I'll read something and then I don't know if it's a clue or just his writing style or possibly using the same words again and again. So anyways, dogs in the park, lake in the background, and trees. Alright, let's see if there's the next one that... Here, let me exit out of this. Okay, so finds a new lady, gets married, and there is no picture of the next page. Okay, that's fine. So, the next thing I want to go over is... Alright, so I'll go over the next page. So the next page is his grandpa dies. And there's a whole bunch of headstones with a whole bunch of just random markings. Very random. And you can get so many different things from these. There's numbers, letters, smiley faces. In the very back one, I thought it said clue at first, but it says CLIN, Clin, but it's sideways, which I thought was very weird. In the Forrest Fenn book, Too Far to Walk, his second memoir, in one of the later chapters, I think it was chapter 37, don't know why I remember that, but on his belt buckle, it said clue. And so I did a video about that, which I thought was cool. But anyways, so gravestones, whole bunch of random markings. Do with it what you will. I have no idea what to make of those. Possibly just randomly put in there. Okay, so this might be the last thing I thought was interesting. It is. Okay, so the last thing I thought was interesting. So it's a picture of the newlyweds, and it says that they traveled around the world. And again, there is a body of water with boats in it. Do not see anyone fishing, though, but there's boats in it, and there's trees. And there's another umbrella on the opposite side. So, reoccurring theme of a lake or body of water with a whole bunch of trees around. And they're traveling around, they're walking together, which brought me to his trip to Japan with Kimberly. And on his back, it looks like he's carrying a guitar. So obviously he was a musician. And so, this just brought me to his trip to Japan. Maybe there's something in that as well. Possibly this book is just to refer you back to There's Treasure Inside and, give you some chapters that have some big clues in it. I don't know. Just a random thought. So, let's go to the next page. And that's it. That's the book. And that's what I have seen. So, I really do think there's something in this right here, this picture. Fishing, some sort of body of water, trees around. My mind also goes back just thinking about this. I didn't have this written down, but it reminds me of the Thoreau chapter when they go fishing and they nab some fish and they catch, they start a fire. And it was the biggest fire in that area. So maybe that's referring you back to that as well. I don't know. I'm interested to see what you guys found. If you did buy this book, what did you think? And also, what do you think of the other book, The Unbreakable Thread? This book came out in, October 1st, 2022. So 2 years, a little less than 2 years before. Alright guys, this video is probably long enough. Like I said, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next video. So my goal is, I'll try to stick to it. So I'll see you guys in the next video.